Hi guys, Harbs Narbs here. Today I'm going to be showing you 6 things that you might not have known about Baldur's Gate 3. There is a high chance that many of you already know some of the stuff in this video, but that is going to vary for each person. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to my latest patron, Argon14. I really appreciate your support and welcome to the Patreon. There are some spoilers ahead for the game, but nothing is data mined. Okay, let's go. Number 1. Moonrise Towers. So, anyone who has played a decent amount of Baldur's Gate 3 will know that we need to make our way to Moonrise Towers, but did you know that Moonrise Towers are not something that Larian have created themselves, and they've existed in Forgotten Realms lore since 1993, appearing in the book Code of the Harpers. It acted as the offices of the Crescent Coat, whose chief responsibilities lay in training local heralds and exploring matters that were brought before the High Heralds for debate. The High Heralds were in charge of the Heralds of Faerun, an almost independent group of historians that focused on the mottos, coats of arms, symbols, and sigils of Faerun's various factions and nobility. In the book we can see the following. Crescent Coat bears a ceremonial ivory rod of ancient make. The current holder of this office is Nerneithra Thaludin, who resides in Moonrise Towers, a fortified compound west of Elturel on the banks of the river Chiontar. This book is set roughly in the realm year of 1367 DR, and therefore something very sinister has happened at Moonrise Towers in the years following. Number 2. Language. You may have noticed a strange script written down in various areas of Baldur's Gate 3. Well, this is called Thoras, and what Common, the primary and most popular language in Faerun, uses as a script. Although most books are written using the Latin alphabet, I assume this is done so we don't have to painstakingly translate everything, which wouldn't be a fun game mechanic, and there is an obvious assumption that our characters are literate and can understand this script. Anyway, I translated a few things that were around. For example, in the basement under the Blighted Village, we can see a couple of signs here. This one is actually upside down and translates to welcome, whereas this one translates to meet. Even more interestingly, when we go into the dank crypt, we can actually translate a lot of the names that the statue of Jurgle is holding. I haven't been able to find a general correlation between the names. They don't seem to all match the names of Larian employees, and I thought perhaps they are the names of famous celebrities or persons of interest that have died, given that this is a list of Jurgle. But I'm not sure, as some of them are very general. We have names like Adrian, Rachel, Gilbert, Escobar and Kennedy, but then also far rarer names like Nehemiah, who was a biblical figure that rebuilt Jerusalem. Number 3. Nhalloth. In the basement of the Arcane Tower we can find a book entitled Excavation of the Enclave of Nhalloth, and it is written from the perspective of someone from Halrua, who appears to know Elminster, and is exploring the ruins of Nhalloth, which is an ancient Netherese city that, like many Netherese cities, used to be a floating one before Karsus' folly brought it crashing down to the earth. I find this book particularly interesting because of the constant references to Netheril in the game, and the references to random Netheril cities being discovered in D&D adventures like in Rime of the Frostmaiden, almost like wizards are rapidly approaching some epic Netherese based conclusion for a lot of unfinished business. However, who is this mysterious author? There is a famous Halruan called Ulront, who we can encounter in the first Baldur's Gate game, who was in charge of Candlekeep's library, and he is described in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting 3rd edition as a proud and haughty wizard, which could explain the author's attitude towards adventures in the book about Nhalloth. In the supplement Anyarok Empire of Shade we can see the following. A great history of Netheril is slowly being written by an unknown archmage. Where he dwells, no one knows, but new volumes of his work appear at Candlekeep every few years, and they are stored in the stacks therein. This must therefore be someone who resides at Candlekeep or has exemption to the price of entry to the Ward Library, as the cost is expensive, having to bring one rare valuable book in order to spend some time within the keep. Anyway, the author possibly isn't Ulront, as the book does state that he came from Halrua, and Ulront would usually spend most of his time within the walls of Candlekeep, but it still piqued my curiosity and got me thinking. In the book about Nhalloth, the following is written. I have met some Shadowvar here whose interests align with mine, and we have agreed to search the ruins together. I'm grateful for these allies, the ruins mostly filled with thick-skulled adventurers, but I cannot shake the feeling that someone is watching us, waiting to see what we uncover. This feeling of being watched is likely referring to the description given to Nhalloth in the 1999 AD&D supplement Sea of Fallen Stars, where the following is said: "Most races avoid it due to odd feelings they get while among the ruins, and many have reported ghosts or like beings among the still regal towers that reach to within 60 feet of the surface." And in the Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide 2008, the following is said regarding the Shadowvar: "Most say that treasure seekers have long since scoured the ruin clean. However, shadow folk have been spied digging in the area. What is Nhalloth's secret so important that newly reborn Netheril would send envoys to unearth it?" The Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide is set in roughly 1479 DR, so perhaps that is about when this book that we find in the Arcane Tower is set. The 2014 book, The Herald, saw the destruction of the ancient Netherese Shadowvar city of Tultantar and the demise of Telemont Tantal in the year 1487 DR. An article written by Ed Greenwood called After the Fall detailed Talamont's heirs, 3 Shadowvar called Lalavdra, Manalum and Gwelt, and it has the following to say regarding their goals. 3 ambitious heirs to the rule of Tultantar, a city that no longer exists, though there are other surviving Netherese cities that could be taken over, and plenty of newer, non-Netherese cities that could be conquered. For that matter, survive and are working together. The questions surrounding Netheril are vast, and I'm sure Baldur's Gate 3 will eventually lead us to many answers. Number 4. Pickpocketing the Talkative Skeleton. So this one is fairly well known, but it is a good way to make sure that all of your resurrections are free, and I'm sure Larian will fix this. You can get at least 3 Revivify scrolls from the Talkative Skeleton, but even after you have raised people from the dead several times, you can actually get all of your money back. And don't worry about being caught pickpocketing him, because he will never attack you, and you can just keep on attempting to steal until you succeed, therefore getting all of your money back that you used to resurrect your companions. Number 5. Journey Through the Jungle. This book can be found in the Dank Crypt near the start of the game, and is written from the perspective of someone called Baron von Baron, who has a goblin guide called Jaw within the jungles of Chult. It's a random bit of lore, as I believe the monster in the book, the Ulu Thalong, is only mentioned once in an official sourcebook, the 3rd edition Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide 2001. We can see the following written in the book by Baron von Baron. "There it was again, above and beneath and all around. So close my skull vibrated from the sound. The ferns and foliage under me rippled and swayed. Jaw held a finger to her lips to demand my silence, and in one motion it snatched her. A vine, a tentacle, it hardly mattered. The hunter had found its prey. Jaw's screams swelled, then faded as Ulu Thalong dragged her away." Ironically, and possibly done on purpose by Larian, the Goblin Guide is named Jaw, but in the Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide, the word Jaw is frequently used to describe what the Ulu Thalong transforms the plants of the forest into. When it closes on its intended prey, the Ulu goes within jungle plants and trees, causing them to ripple and bulge. These swellings move swiftly to branches, from which they burst forth as huge jaws at the end of tentacles, eyeless jaws that see prey perfectly. If a jaw is killed, the Ulu leaves the area. The Ulu can then convey its own thoughts and mental control through the speaker. Even creatures that don't normally speak can hoarsely whisper words in an attempt to lure humans to its jaws. Ultimately, nobody truly knows what the Ulu Thalong is, but it is described as follows in the Forgotten Realms Guide. The Ulu Thalong is a huge, ancient and malevolent flesh-eating beast. A weird, tuneless piping always marks its approach. The sound reduces intelligent jungle creatures to headlong flight or mortal fear. Number 6. Speak with Dead Volo. So many of you may have done this, but I haven't seen it much on YouTube or elsewhere. If you kill Volo stealthily, you can use Speak with Dead on him, where he will talk to you. Oddly, his lines aren't voiced, but I'll read them out. "Who are you? Volothamp Gadam, my mother's son. What were you doing here? Investigating the Absolute, Goblin's new god. Who is the Absolute? Unreal god, unheard of, spread like a plague. Do you have anything of value? Quick mind, silver tongue. Do you have any unfinished business? Manuscript, story of goblins, Absolute, don't know how it ends. Do you have any advice for me? Use your voice, always. What was your greatest desire in life? To be heard. What is it like to die? Transforming, glimmering. Transforming, glimmering, what do you mean? The story never told, the passing, beautiful. I suppose what stuck out most for me here is when we asked him what was your greatest desire in life, and he responded with, to be heard. This is very relevant to Volo, who frequently has been overshadowed by those greater than himself. He lies and exaggerates the truth constantly in order to make his work more famous. In his letter to Elminster, we can see several lies and exaggerations about his position in the Goblin camp. He even calls himself silver-tongued, which is the same answer he gave us when he was dead. In Volo's guide to nymphs in the game, we can see that his work has been critiqued by Elminster, something which is common throughout all of his books written by Ed Greenwood in reality. He lives in Elminster's shadow, constantly deep down seeking his approval. His response, to be heard, is tragic but representative of his life, and it reminds me of a quote by David Augsburger. Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Okay, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos like this, then do please give me a like and subscribe. The second part of the Planescape series will be coming out relatively soon as well. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye!